Thank you. Okay, let me share my screen.
Have you ever had a dream that that you had you could you do you want you could do so you do you could you want him to do you so much you could do anything?
So I feel I really relate to that little boy because first of all, language struggle. I came to the States as an international student a couple of years ago, and all of a sudden my world changed because I have to use English as my tool to navigate through everything. And right, and then I constantly finding this challenge of looking for the right words, the right way of putting a sentence together to tell people how I feel, to do the things I want to communicate with people. I also feel like me and that little boy share the same degree of excitement, that he feel like sometimes he can do anything, that I feel like with my friends, with my community, with my lack of knowledge becoming my creative fuel, I can do anything sometimes. And there we go. My name is Pan Yixuan, and Yixuan Pan is my, English, my name in the way of English, and I go by Pan, my last name. Let me admit. Okay, what is going on? Okay, there we go. I am a constant translator because I've been living in this in-between world. When you start to letting another language come into your world, you are not all of a sudden the different language, but you're in this in-between space for a very long time. So I found myself constantly translating back and forth. Maybe not only just between Mandarin Chinese and English, but this two ways of thinking, these two cultures. So the first work I want to introduce is called Hua Chong Niao Shou. They are lollipops that I made. I cast the interior shapes of my mouth when I say Hua means flower, Chong means insect, Niao means birds, and Shou means monster, these four words. Because different from English, Chinese is single syllable words. So I want to give people who doesn't speak Chinese this experience of speaking Chinese, this physical experience of what does it mean when you put the word in your mouth and then letting this word melt in your mouth. So I'm basically putting my own word in other people's mouth. And next to, or as a package of this lollipop I made, there's this Chinese character, the Chinese pinyin, which is the pronunciation, and the English translation, and the shape of my mouth when I say this word. This is a digital video. It's a love letter, and I used all the materials in this video as the title for this piece. So I designed this speech device. It's made out of glass. So one fun fact, I went to grad school. I went to glass glass program for my master degree without knowing enough of glass. I didn't really know how to blow glass. But then I think glass is very similar to language in a way. It's kind of a translation because it's so clear, but it changes things in the way of passing through information. So I designed this speech device. It's a bubble, and I have my mouth 3D scanned. So in a way, this bubble is completely sealed my mouth. It collects every single dose of air that when I talk. So on the other side of this glass bubble, there's a little tube that goes into this cup of soap solution. So when I say things, this air force will push through this soap solution and create bubbles. I was whispering a love letter into the soap bubble. In the video, you couldn't really hear the content of my love letter, but you can see the soap bubbles formed in the air and vanished, and then leave this big circle-shaped water stain on the surface.
Certain,
I think that and Ron and
it's I mean there've been no
the
Archer and
あれはそのですよ、その知ってないからね、それそのそそのそれそのその
ちょっと違う
the
already
说
is
这个
because
it's like and
and
So and and
So I'm gonna pause this audio piece. It's called The Sound of Thinking, and it's a music therapy. So I'm very curious what this thought process is for everyone. And I think when a person is thinking, you can't tell what is going on. But then often the time, especially in the context of a conversation, people will make this noise cautiously and also unconsciously, right? And then, well, those are the words that we use in English. But in other language, for example, in Chinese, people say 然后,然后,还有, right? Or Japanese, そのは, right? So on and so forth. In different language, we are trained to verbalize our thinking into different ways, into different sound, into different music. So this is a list of people at the time that I was really curious what they're thinking about. They are thinkers, they are celebrities, they are murderers, they are, you know, a 5-year-old, some kid, they are genius, they're, you know, all sorts of different people. I wonder if by listening to the sound of their thinking, will that make me smarter? Or will that train my way of thinking to think differently, maybe? Because right? We have this tradition or this myth even to play Beethoven to your garden so you have better melons, or you play some music to your cows and your cow produce better milk. So I wonder if by listening to the sound of thinking, can we use it as a as a music therapy to train, to reform our way of thinking? Okay, scared me. I am also an amateur conductor. I have this conducting project called Anti-Choir Practice. So the first piece I'm going to share with you is called How I Wonder What You Are. I started the practice actually the end of 2016, and this is one iteration of it. Let me play. So before I play, I want to say that I worked with a group of professional choir singers. They are trained to read conducting language. And however, myself, I've never had any professional training. I don't read music. So I was using a self-invented body language and try to communicate with them. At the same time, I have every singer wear soundproofed earmuffs so they can't hear each other. They can't harmonize with each other. They can only respond individually to my body language.
Twinkle, 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 twinkle.
And this is the installation view. So I have two sides, two videos projected on the opposite wall, and then inviting the audience entering this mysterious space between a conductor and her choir. Because usually when you are going to a choir concert, you only see the back of the conductor, right? And the face of the singers. But now I want you to be, in between, kind of between this black and white binary looking space. And I want you to engage with the question of, is this black and white? Is this yes or no? And then I took this, how do I say this? And then as a conductor, I went to this little island called Fisher's Island. Is off of Long Island Sound. It's a small island, very private, has very little people, but has many birds. So I studied with the local naturalist, and she taught me a lot about bird calls. And on the left, that's an image of my rough sketch of bird call patterns, my illustration of that, my notes. On the right are whistles that made by the Fisher's Island Middle School students. And it's led by artist fellow named Liz McCarthy. We were resident artists at the same time. So she led this workshop in teaching kids how to make whistles using the island clay that dug out from this island clay pit. And then I started another workshop after they got the whistle fired. And then I had this workshop with the same group of kids. We formed a whistle choir, and in a way to respond to all these beautiful bird calls and that we received, we want to perform our version of bird calls and kind of sending it back to the birds, back to them. This is the project that I did with the College of New Jersey in 2019. I was invited to do this cross-disciplinary project. I call it a dreamed common language. So I worked with a bunch of music students, and we had various workshops and performances kind of discuss the translation between visual language to music language and really question the traditional, especially Western dominated way of, score or music writing, or the music scores, the music sheets. And those are the scores that we created together. And I'm going to play a little clip from the third workshop that we trying to translate the scores that we created together and back to sound. And we developed this kind of finger language, this tactile, and to create a pattern and communicate with each other, to instruct each other to sing in a certain way, to make noise in a certain way. I'm also a window cleaning instructor. So in 2017, I did a residency in Finland. And instead of going in the summertime, that's usually the popular time to go to the Scandinavia maybe, but I went in the middle of winter. So it was really cold outside. And most of the time that we spend is, we just do our work inside of the building. In my room, I had a big window in front of my desk. So every day I was looking throughout that window and see wind moving the leaves around, see how the daylight is changing, and see some birds sometimes, or just see nothing is happening. At the same time, I feel like we're on I am on the other side of the glass being protected by it. I'm still warm, right? My temperature, it's still the indoor temperature, but I can experience what is on the other side. And I wonder, is that the same? Is the representation that inside of the window the same as the one that's happening outside? So I wrote this essay, and at the end of my residency, I did a performance. I cleaned a big panel of glass window in the middle of Finnish forest, and it was snowing everywhere. So it was really cold, and my breath fogged up on the glass window really clearly. When I come back to the States, that's the same residency I did in Fisher's Island called Lighthouse Works. So I had this idea of asking people to join my window cleaning practice. Instead of me doing it by myself, I want to have a community. I don't want to be alone. I want to have friends joining me to cleaning windows. Also, going to a strange island, I want to get to know people. So I posted this artist request on their local website called Window Cleaning, Cleaning Window on Fish Island, and asked people to participate. And many people signed up. They're really excited, and they're really excited to get their windows cleaned for free by an artist. But then they found out it's not the case. I showed up with my speaker and I played this how to clean a window audio tutorial, and they have to follow my audio tutorial and clean their own windows. And people did it similarly, interpret my verbal instruction similarly, but most of the time very differently. And through this project, I got to not only see people's kind of snippets of private life through their windows, but also I get to see this very unique landscape reflected through their windows. I think it's a very poetic way to ask people to stop what they're doing and cleaning their own windows with me. Right, very meditative, and a kind of a way of self-caring. In 2018, I led this kinematic workshop in Icebox project in Philadelphia. So I then emphasized on the part of meditation and body movement. So without a physical window, we imagined a window that we had at some point, and then we all cleaned that imaginary window together. And just last week, I led this a very interesting Zoom live workshop at a CAA conference, and it's through MAD in New York. But because we're living in this time that we're experiencing this global pandemic, I think many things now are becoming windows, right? Like our face shields, the acrylic walls that it's clear, translate information, but also creates a barrier, or the surveillance that we're living in more and more now. So I invited people to clean our web cameras actually in front of web cameras and do this collective stretch together. And our faces are all framed in each Zoom windows. And just like right now, exactly that we all living in our own small Zoom windows and appeared as a grid of faces. So now I want to share with you a little fragment of the class with Arcadia. So this is with my lovely students, our public art class, and I'm gonna start. It's really short, and you have to pay attention here. That everyone turned on their microphone, and we shared our silence together. Yeah, this is part of our deep listening exercises. We did other things, we played other games, but I think this is very suitable for today's talk because we all trying to be quiet. We're trying to be in our own little windows, but I'm sure there's something that we share, something that we relate and can translate, right? Can transform throughout different spaces. So for the public art project that we are going to do, me and my students, we are trying to be listeners and walkers now. Because we are going to create a guided walking tour for our Glenside community. So the walking tour is going to have two elements. One is a hand-drawn map that we will be creating together. We will also make an audio tutorial of the walk, the guide, an audio guide, right? Yeah. And we will include snippets of local history and maybe the history that's not many people have talked about, the forgotten information about our community. And also not only things in the past, we are, everyone in the community are writing our history right now. So I do want to include ordinary residents, conversations or stories. And those people can be, coffee shop owners, train conductors, pedestrians, dog walkers, or students, can be one of you. So I really want to, get to know everyone a little bit more, and maybe we can introduce you and share some of your stories in our walking tour. Also, we would like to incorporate some meditative exercises because I found myself doing a lot of walks, especially during the pandemic. I think it's very so curing in a way. And I want to share that experience with everyone who is going to participate in this walking tour, in this guided walking tour. And not only making it an activity in solitude, I want to open it up, especially in the time of pandemic, make it somehow socially distanced, but also interactive, create some common area, some common ground together. And so through this project, I hope to do three things: listen, heal, and re-establish. So we really hope this project we can listen the often quiet and give voice to the voiceless, especially our marginalized communities. And we want to heal the gap between Arcadia campus and our surrounding neighborhood. Also, this huge political divide in this country right now. And of course, trauma from COVID-19 that we have to be physically far from each other, and our lifestyle being changed so much because of the threat from the virus. And eventually, I really hope through this walking tour that we can reestablish trust in this community. And that is so far what we are working on. And how can you participate is join our community forum. We will have a meeting with Cheltenham Township with our community members, and we would really like to see people from Arcadia or other community to tell us, what do you think? Do you know some wonderful people that you want to recommend for us to include in our tour? And this time for that meeting right now is scheduled on March 16th. I think it's a Tuesday, and it's at 7:30. It will be a Zoom, so you can join anywhere in this world. And I think that's what I want to share now. And I'm curious if you have any questions for me.
Well, Pan, thank you so much. A question that I'd like to raise just to kick things off is, in the audience here, there are a lot of first-year students, and your work deals so much with performance and interactivity with audiences and participation. How did you begin to become interested in that? Where did the desire begin? Often I think as a young person, we can think of art in very traditional terms: a painting, a framed painting in a museum. And for you, where did the desire to start your body of work in this participatory, interactive way? How did that begin?
Yeah, I don't know when did it begin exactly, but maybe I think has so much to do with my language struggle. I want to communicate, I want to connect. So if I'm afraid of my language is not going to be a perfect tool, then I really do as much as I can to connect with audience in other ways through my work. I want to create some shared experience for other people. For example, in my lollipop, instead of teaching people how to speak Chinese, I want to make people have this experience, or even not by directly putting the lollipop in their mouth. But I think intellectual participation is something I was looking for, to have a connection. Yeah, and also I want to, I guess, what's that called? Catch people off guard, right? Did I say it right? Yeah. Catch people off guard. So for my experience, when you go to a museum, when you go to a gallery, and you're gonna see painting, sculpture, or you're gonna see art, whatever that means, art. And I feel I'm prepared. I'm prepared with, a very sophisticated, I don't know, like things I'm gonna say, or certain knowledge I was expected to present, right? But then I'm curious that when you see things that's not maybe considered art at first, you're not ready, what would you feel? So I really want to catch my audience off guard. They're not ready to see, oh, I'm gonna see art. Rather, they are entering into this experience.
Richard, do you want to ask your question, or do you want me to ask for you? Oh, can't hear you.
Oh, you're on mute, Richard.
Thank you. Sorry. So, Pan, I was curious to hear you talk about how you would make a walking tour that would include people as opposed to locations. And I know you have some ideas about this, but maybe that would be a way to open up some of the details or the logistics of what you're planning.
Yeah, totally. Thank you for the question. So, well, a tour, I think, is connected by locations. But I also think when we're walking on the streets, we see people everywhere. So I often have curiosities of who they are. Are they what they're doing? Are they in a busy day? Are they having a good time? Do they have kids? Are they a cat person or dog person? I really want to know a little bit more about a community other than a building. A building has a lot of histories, has a lot of things happening. And I do want to talk about that. But sometimes I think, again, it's the looking for connection, is that desire makes me want to introduce more of what is happening, what are here, who could be my potential friends.
Any other questions? Students, anybody? We've got some comments. That's amazing. Here's one. A lot of your art is very participatory. Have you ever had problems with people reacting in an unexpected way to installations, or were ever just surprised by the way people interacted with your art?
Yes, totally. I think I talked a little bit when I was sharing my cleaning window on Fisher's Island project. So people signed up. Many of them did not read the whole post. They thought it's a free service by a, by an Asian girl, by an artist, by some artist gonna clean their windows for free. So they're like, sign me up. And then they realized that's not what they expected. They still participated because they did sign up. So they committed. And through that, I think that's also like how I was thinking, how I was hoping to catch people off guard. They then experience this, cleaning window in a meditative way, in a way that they don't do usually. They don't take their time clean their window, or many of them don't even clean their windows by themselves. They would hire other people. So through this everyday repetitive domestic labor, and then think about those moments in their life and what they do every day.
Anybody else questions? I think it's interesting with that project in particular, it's about the intention, right? You're drawing them to this mundane sort of activity, but to give it that attention that makes it sort of special.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so because I also mentioned earlier, I have a master's degree in glass, and in the glass community, I often feel I'm so not skilled because I went to the program without knowing how to blow glass. But then I feel like, does that make me unqualified to use glass in my work, to talk about glass, to think about glass? Does that mean that you have to have, like hot blowing skills to use glass in your project? And how would that connect your audience? What kind of audience then you will have? So in this way, I'm still thinking about glass, but rather than a delicate glass vase that people blown up, that I want to invite people look through their windows, look at the dust that accumulated on their window, and look at the reflections that created on their window, and look through their window and see what is on the other side.
Anybody else? Questions? Oh, Matt, you want to ask, or you want to ask your question? Oh, I can do it. I know it's early on, but have you been able to gather any information about the Glenside community?
I have. I'm still in the process of getting more information. I think right now I have, you know, so in the class that we are doing some, deep listening exercises, and also we're working on this poem mapping project that's not directly related to the Glenside project, but then we will then focus on the Glenside project. And so at the same time, I'm trying to connect some local people and historians to share information or share some archived information with us. And I'm really hoping through the community forum or today's meeting that can introduce this project and have some more connections from you all, like who are the local gyms that we should know, we should include in our tour, who can we introduce. I really want to know who, which grandma makes the best quilt, right? Who makes the best casserole, things like that. I think those are very precious stories about this community.
So a little bit more from the chat. Emily said, I'm not sure how much this is a question, but I'm really intrigued by the idea of the sounds of thinking. It reminds me of a post I once saw about how students are chastised for saying or between words, when in reality it's a natural habit for every language, including sign language. It's interesting seeing all of those sounds being compiled into one file. It's more of a statement. We
Yes,
also
can I actually say something about that? Yes. So yes, I took a speech class in undergrad as a required elective, and the instructor asked us to eliminate all those sounds. However, now thinking about it, I said in a in a conversation context, when you are making those sound of thinking, I think in linguistics it's called fillers. You are actually indicating, I am still working on this. I am thinking. I wait for me. Be a little bit patient. I will be there with you. I will form a complete sentence for you. So it's a way of communication itself, even though it's abstract. But I think we can all relate.
The next question comes from Jack. He says, thanks, Pan. Were the choir members in the anti-choir also untrained? In either case, I am so curious about how you picked or chose them.
They are professional choir singers. Professional meaning, they're in the school choir. Not in Tyler, Bowyer School, Bowyer Music School. It's in Temple University. I put flyers out, and I was asking people to participate, and I think I also said I'll teach them to sing a Chinese song. And I got many people respond. That's the video that I showed before we had more practice and with different groups. And it was really fun, and we did different iterations. And at first, I realized they really want to harmonize with each other. That's why I forced them to wear double layered earmuffs. So to really see how to kind of break them up. Instead of a group, they all have to respond to me directly.
Any other questions?
One question I have, Pan, is just, it's this really unprecedented environment that we're in, where we're all virtual, and just what your impressions are of beginning a project in a virtual environment, one that's ultimately will be experienced in person, but what's it been like working this way?
I think it definitely has so much challenges. We have to work with people's comfortability, right? But I think more than that, I feel responsibility in some ways. I feel like motivation, because I think we really need something to reconnect people. Now people are talking about, or not talking about, the vaccines are out. It is out, and people can sign up to get vaccinated, and eventually we will all get vaccinated. But I wonder if the vaccination can cure everything, because I found myself watching video clips from pre-pandemic or from other countries that people are being really close to each other and talking to each other, and I constantly got scared. I was like, that's really close. So I think there's a trust. It's not, we can't really take it for granted. I don't think the vaccine can just erase the fear. Some sort of collective exercise, maybe like this walking tour, can give some opportunities, can offer some platforms for people to reconnect, to feel more comfortable being together, walking next to each other.
Oh, there's a question in the chat. In your hometown or neighborhood, was there a sense of interconnectedness? If so, how did that play in the role for you to choose this project in Glenside, or did it have a role?
Let's see. In my hometown or neighborhood, sense of interconnectedness. I feel like, well, so now I live in Philadelphia. I moved to Philly for grad school a couple of years ago. And at first I didn't like living here. It was really hard. It was a big culture shock for me, because before that I was in a small town in Oregon, so culturally very different. It's even more drastic than me moving from China to the States. America, it's a big country, culturally very different. Small conservative town versus a big city like Philadelphia. And when I was in grad school, I was just 2 points, studio, my apartment, studio, my apartment. I was scared of the surroundings. I didn't really feel I need to make connections with anyone around me. But then once I graduated, I started to be more invested in the people live near me, not only my peers were the people in the college on campus, but I recently joined the community garden. I get to know various interesting people. They grow different vegetables. They're from different culture. They're from different country, and they kind of you can just see from their little plot. It's a plotland community, like which country they're from, because they grow their own vegetables and they plant them in a certain way. That is really ground me in a magnificent way. When I walk through this neighborhood, I know that maybe not so much about who they are, but I sort of know, I feel like I can connect with people. So that's something that I want to offer through this project as well, some sort of familiarity, some sort of personal information that's floating in the air, and I just want to capture them and put them together and give people that walk this walking tour like that information, share with them.
I think we've got another question in the chat, or just a statement.
Yeah, just statement. If, I think that Pan's on there so you can read it.
Okay, great.
I'll read it. So Alice said, I also love how creative it was that you figured out a way to translate your project to continue to connect people online and adjust to the new world. Thank you. Because I think it will be a game to play that we say, let's talk for 10 minutes without saying anything the pandemic related. that can be a challenge, right? Because we live in this world that every inch of our life being affected by the pandemic in different ways. So of course that reshaped my way of thinking, my way to react to the reality. And yeah, and that's why I think that's a result that I want to talk about this shared experience in my own work. Our Zoom life.
Any other questions? Oh, yes. Another statement for you, Pam.
Should I read it?
Sure.
Okay. So Cheyenne, right? Is that how you say your name? Cheyenne, I really admire how you used art to express how you felt. And even if one has not experienced it themselves, you created a form of art that allows them a little bit of access to the struggle or experience you have had, and we all have had to an extent. Thank you very much.
Richard, did you have something?
I was typing a question, but I wondered how maybe if you could talk about how the tour will be experienced differently based on our familiarity with Glenside. So some people know Glenside for a very long time, and others, some of the students will know it not so well. And I just wondered, will it be an experience like for someone like myself, and I've been working at Arcadia for many years. If I participate in your tour, will I be introduced to a Glenside that I could have never imagined, or will it be more about drawing or framing an experience that I know very well, but am seeing from a different angle? I'm not sure I'm asking the question properly, but I'm just wanting you to say a little bit more about what you're really going to be doing and how you think it will end up in terms of experience. Really what you're creating an experience for people more than anything else, right?
Yeah. And I think instead of curating a closed experience, I want to introduce a guidance to maybe open up their senses, like the deep listening exercise that we did in class. Instead of I'm giving you this audio that you just listen, this image that you see, this video that you watch, I want to give people the methods to listen, to open their ears up, to open their eyes up. So back to your question, Richard. I think let's see. I think everyone will experience differently. It sounds cliche, but I really think it's the same because you said everyone have different relationship with the community, have different experience with the community. So for people experience this town like in a longer time versus our student maybe first year, or someone like me, bad direction, haven't been to the campus a lot, haven't been to the neighborhood a lot, and how I now as a tour guide will give you what information that we think, not only me, but also my students in this class think are important, want to present, want to share with you, will be different in how you take it. And I think even walking is such a personal thing. Everyone have different pace. Someone walk faster, someone walk slower. And maybe I think in our tour, we can even encourage people to walk in different pace. Sometimes you should walk faster, sometimes you should walk slower, sometimes you should not walk, stop there, because stopping is also a part of walking, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I hope I answered your question, Richard.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, that helped.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for asking that question.
Okay, so it looks like Carol has a question. Your optimism is refreshing. How did you arrive to the idea of healing with this work? Do you feel like a lot of your art falls under a larger umbrella of connectedness and longing?
That sounds about right. It's like a doctor who's like diagnosed me. Yeah, that sounds about right. I think I relate to that. I don't think I said that myself, but now think about it, it's pretty, you know, what's that called? On point, on point. Yeah, because as an international person living in the States, that I feel I'm constantly looking for the sense of belonging. Uh, I'm not an immigrant. I'm not American. I am not, like I'm trying to find my reason to be here and who I am for myself, not only who I am, who I look like for other people. So, and I also try to create that kind of connection for other people too, or at least share my feeling with other people.
And do you feel that this for lack of a better word, exhibition will go on after this initial sort of launch? Will it be something that people can go back to for years and years and years? And if so, like how will they be able to find it? Like, will there be a certain spot kind of thing?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Right now, we're thinking about QR codes, have some sort of sign, but we have to look into details of the logistics of installing things like that. And I do hope this project can, not just for this semester, I think after the pandemic or many years from now, can still have relatable experience for people. And maybe in the future, we can even have events that we take this walking tour together as a group, right? With social distance or without social distance. Or in the future, maybe there's a room and resource to expand on this walking tour, because right now this course is only one semester, and so the scope of the region that we want to include in the walking tour is limited, or ways of directing this walking tour, which direction, and the long route or the short route. But I think there's a lot of possibility to expand it and to see it grow.
We've gotten some other great comments in the chat from Mary. I love your work. It's very unique and takes the idea of language to a whole new level as a form of art. And from Tiara, I really like how creatively different all of your projects are and how they incorporate different people in different effective ways. It's really interesting. Are there any other questions for Pan? Well, if there are no more questions, Pan, on behalf of everyone at Arcadia and everyone in this meeting, I want to thank you for bringing your work in for all of us and for spending the time, and can't wait for the project to develop and to launch. Everyone here, I hope that you can participate in the community forum that Pan mentioned on March 16th at 7:30. And please, you can follow us on Instagram to get more updates about what's going on with Pan's project and other ways to participate. So I hope you'll stay in touch with all of us, and especially with Pan. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.